Democratic Representative Raja Krishnamoorthi joins us now. You are from Illinois. I believe you just signed the discharge petition, right, which will now force a vote. So I want to ask you, in terms of shedding more light on this Epstein affair, what will this vote do? And what do you believe the Justice Department and the Trump administration haven't done at this point?
Well, what they have not done is turned over all the Epstein files. They've turned a fraction of the files over to Congress under a subpoena, a bipartisan subpoena that was put to them. But a lot of those documents they've turned over are already in the public domain. So it didn't really shed a whole lot of light. The hope is that this discharge petition, which will now have 218 signatures on it, will force a vote on legislation that will compel the White House to produce the rest of the documents. And, quite frankly, we need to get the rest of the documents for at least two reasons. One, to do justice to the survivors, the 1,000+ victims of the child sex trafficking ring led by Epstein. And two, to prevent this from ever happening again. The fact that we are sitting here 20 years later after the abuses were committed is a real shame, and it's a stain on our justice system right now. And we got to prevent this from ever happening again.
Now, with you in Capitol Hill, there are some survivors who are looking at all of this and wondering when that full disclosure will happen. I should say that Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, just said moments ago that the Trump administration is being fully cooperative and transparent. And I am wondering now, what more did we learn from these, from what committee released, a committee I believe that you sit on? Because, again, the White House stresses that there's nothing in these emails, they say, that suggests that the president did anything wrong. In fact, far from it, they say.
Well, I think that the production from the Jeffrey Epstein estate is illuminating. It's disturbing. One of the emails says that Trump knew about the girls. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein. Another email says that Trump spent hours with one of the victims in Jeffrey Epstein's house. A third email talks about how basically Jeffrey Epstein has leverage or potentially has leverage with regard to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had been on his plane, the Lolita Express, had been in his house where all these horrors took place. And Donald Trump, of course, has denied all these things to the rest of the world. So for that reason and others, we need the full production of the Epstein files again.
Now, Congressman, I do want to point out that Virginia Giuffre herself has said that she did not see the president do anything wrong when she was at Mar-a-Lago. And this suggestion of the girls could, in fact, be innocent, meaning there were young women lawfully employed at Mar-a-Lago that, Epstein might have been talking about there. That doesn't necessarily imply any guilt. So I ask you again, what are you looking for from the Justice Department itself? Because they continually say everything's already been released that needs to be released.
Well, that's completely false. Look, if there's nothing to hide, then produce the rest of the files. That's all they have to do. It'll take them a day and just produce them, and then let sunshine come in and basically allow the public to see what's in those files, along with Congress being able to continue its investigation.
And in fact,
that is not happening.
And in fact,
there's a reason.
Yeah, and in fact, as you say, the survivors themselves, that is what they want and what they've been calling for years now. I do want to go to the topic of the shutdown and the lingering fallout over this, because the division in your party is clear. We just heard from your colleague, Ocasio-Cortez, and she put it plainly, right? She blames the dissenters in the Senate, and she blames Chuck Schumer. So what do you think will happen here with your party? Because it's not a good look at this point in time. I'm assuming you do not back the compromise in the Senate here.
No, I don't. And I'll be voting no today. And it's going to be a very close vote. So I hope that your viewers actually ask Democrats who might represent them to vote no. But also there's a number of Republicans, a handful of Republicans who might flip. All that being said, the issue that's staring us in the face tonight is that millions of Americans, tens of millions, maybe more than 20 million Americans are going to be seeing their health insurance premiums skyrocketing in the holiday season, as we approach the end of the year when the tax credits under the ACA expire. These tax credits are vital because if they expire, not only will people's health insurance premiums explode, but 4 million Americans are expected to lose their health insurance altogether. And that's on top of the 17 million who are going to lose their health insurance under what Trump calls the big, beautiful bill, and I call the large, lousy law. So we're seeing a catastrophe befall our healthcare system.
We will wait in the coming hours to see what happens with that vote. I thank you in the meantime for your time on what has been really a few hours now of late-breaking developments. Appreciate it. Now, the AR